Life's like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it rolls.
Welcome back to another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Deemer. And I got to say, today's guest is somebody I've really been looking forward to having on for a little while now. Richard's been in the paving and contracting world for over 50 years. You heard that correct. He's been in business for over 50 years. He started back in 1973, long before most of the equipment, processes, and shortcuts we rely on today ever existed. In fact, it was before I was even born. Over his career, Richards built and ran a large paving company with more than 75 employees and his own asphalt manufacturing facility. In 2018, he successfully sold that business, something a lot of contractors talk about, but very few actually do. What makes Richard different, though, is that he didn't just cash out and walk away. Today, he's still in the field, still running equipment, still recycling pavement, still installing millings, because he genuinely loves the work. He calls running equipment his therapy. Guys, today we are going to talk about what it really takes to scale a contracting business, the mistakes you only learn the hard way, what he'd do differently if you were starting over today, and why experience eventually teaches you of value efficiency, the simplicity, and smart processes over just getting bigger. If you're an owner-operator, a small crew, mid-sized crew, and you're trying to grow into more, and somebody who wants to build something that actually lasts, you're going to want to listen to this episode all the way through. Richard, thank you so much for taking time and joining us on the Skid Steer Nation podcast. I'm thrilled to have you.
Well, I am so happy to be here. I always wondered what this was about. I heard a few podcasts in the past, and I always enjoyed each and every one of them.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I just want to give a little bit of a backstory. You actually called into Skid Steer Nation probably a month ago. You had some questions about an attachment, and it just happened to be early in the morning, and I grabbed the phone because I don't think the employees had started working yet. And we just started talking and hitting it off. And you were telling me part of your story. And I was like, I have got to have you come on the podcast because it was just enamoring. And I thought it was just an amazing story to share with everybody.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to share this with you and everybody out there. I think, in today's age, you could push a button, chat GPT, whatever you wanted, but there's nothing like the personal definition of how to do a business and do it right.
Yeah. Man, there's so many places we could start from and everything else, but I would just love like a recap of take us back to the 1970s and how it all started.
Okay, rewind. Yeah, so I started working. I had several jobs. Like I had a grass cutting job, like a lot of entrepreneurs mostly did. And then in high school, I had a part-time job delivering bundles of paper to kids, and I learned, a little bit of business there and psychology with the kids and stuff. And then I had a job working for a paving contractor, and I didn't know anything about it. And I met a friend, and he said, my dad would like to hire you. So I started out putting in driveways, and we didn't have a paving machine. We did it all by hand. In fact, we dug it out by hand. We would take a job and dig it out in the morning, like a 50 by 10 with a great hoe, like a mattock. And we'd raise that dump body in the back, and we would just like shovel it in, and we dumped the stone, we leveled out and rolled. We did have a roller though. But and then we would lay the asphalt by hand, and we would do one of them a day. Typically.
How much were you getting paid back then to do that?
$50 a day.
$50 a day. That's actually pretty good money for back then, isn't it?
Oh yeah. No, it was. It was minimum wage was $1.65 an hour. So I did have a job prior. I quit my job. I forgot to tell you about. I had a hospital job. I worked at a hospital front desk. And I got paid $12 an hour there, but it was a Friday and Saturday night midnight shift, so I missed all my fun, like the dances and all that good stuff. But anyway, yeah, I made $12 an hour. But then this was real tempting, working 5 days a week and get a little bit of exercise, and I didn't have to go to the gym. And that's how I look at it. Even today, when I work, I don't have to. It's like when Rocky worked out in the gym, or when he was in the movie, he chased the chicken, hit the beef, that kind of exercise. It's really good
Yeah.
for you.
All right. So you start out $50 a day, hand digging driveways. What's the maturation process from there?
Well, basically so then as I continued on, I was saving some side jobs because I always was an entrepreneur. I wanted to start my own business. So I bought an old roller. I had that on the side. Then I bought a dump truck, but it wasn't a dump truck. It was a oil truck cabin chassis. And I bought a dump body, and I had this old mechanic that worked for the post office. Very good guy, real helpful. And at night times, I would help him put the body on, help weld it, attach it, and get it ready for my own business. So that's how I got started. I didn't have a paving machine.
That's crazy. And how long did you run your business and operate it kind of that way?
Well, it didn't take me too long to understand that my big dream back then was to get a paving machine. And in fact, they didn't have small paving machines back then. Like there was a power box and I wanted one. So I bought one. So I bought it off this guy. He worked for a company. He just started with this company and I purchased it. It was all over the telephone. They delivered it to a job site and he came out and the load of hot mix came. And I said, well, how do you operate this? He says, I don't know. I used to sell cars. Yeah. So I said, oh boy. So there wasn't YouTube. There wasn't anything, right? Just imagine now, okay, let me go on YouTube. Yeah. No, we didn't have that. And for some reason, somehow I figured it out. And the first job came out beautiful. I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. But then the second job was a catastrophe because I overthought it. But, I got over it. So so I was like 21 years old when I was the first company in Delaware that had a small paving.
That's amazing.
But now you see them on every corner, they're all over.
Yeah, you can get them in any size you want now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I guess walk me through the rest of the 70s and into the 80s. I mean, because there's some cool things. I mean, I shouldn't say cool, but there's some things that happened in the 80s that a lot of our listeners may not be aware of that were probably a struggle to get through.
Oh, my God. I'll tell you about the oil embargo. Oh, my God. In Delaware, it was odd and even number at the end of your license plate. Even, odd and even. And on those days, you can only get fuel, So that was a struggle. Waiting in line on those days that you wanted gas or
so
diesel,
let me clarify that for some of the listeners out there that might be like, what's he talking about? There was an oil shortage, and based on the number on your license plate, you could get gas on specific days of the week. And if it wasn't that day, you weren't allowed to get gas.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh.
Yep. Yeah. So that was like in the late 70s. And then gas, I remember when I was 16, gas, I bought it for $29.9. So for $5, I could go down to the beach, like Rehoboth Beach. That's our beaches. And back like on a Friday night. So we go to the school dances and $5 gets you back and forth,
Yeah, he meant 29.9 cents, guys.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but like in the 80s had been a trying time. Like you had ridiculous interest rates for a while. They changed the gold standard, the Cold War with Russia. I mean, it was a more difficult decade I think most people give it credit for.
Besides that and all the recessions that I've been through, it takes a warrior, not a worrier. A lot of people worry, but I always use that statement. I'm a warrior, not a worrier. Not saying I didn't worry, but I was always out on the front line, hold my own and just surviving, basically. Yeah. It was trying times with the interest rates, 20, 25%. I didn't want to go in too much debt. I just really wanted good equipment. But then I found out later that, you had to go in debt to get good equipment. Like you don't want to buy older equipment or used. I mean, you had to start out somewhere, but you always find out that it's always good to buy, American made products, especially attachments and things like that. It's an investment.
Appreciate the plug there for Skid Steer Nation.
Well, it's
So
true.
one of the questions I have for you in the 80s, like, you talk about the interest rates being really high. It was a super trying time. How big of a company were you at that time?
I had about 10 people. 10 people. We had. I think I really started to grow when I had a salesman come to work for me. His name was Mr. Bucci. At the time, he was 55 years old. He's a Christian. I did some work for him. He came in. He said, "The Lord sent me." I said, "Okay, here's 3 jobs to check." And I gave him a rundown. He came back. He signed 3 up. I said, "Wow, this is great." I didn't even have to go out there at night how I used to. I used to, you know, finish the work and then nighttime, come home at 9 or 10 at night, go to sleep and repeat the process. But with him, he would, and people loved him. He was a, customer. He was an old fashioned guy, people trusted him. And so that worked out. And then from there, going into the 90s, I hired like a vice president, and then he took a lot off me, and then we just grew the company from there. But prior to that, I put my asphalt plant in 1989. But my dream in my 20s, when I pull underneath that chute and I drive my own truck, that was my dream. That was my inspiration when I was 21, was to own an asphalt plant. So that's what I did when I was 39 years old. I bought a plant in Lakeland, Florida, and 11 tractor trailer loads, and they brought it up the pike. And it took like 3 years to get the approval. Like, it was really challenging times. It took 3 years to get approvals. They didn't want to give it to me, the permit. I had to do everything and sponsor baseball leagues and, do what you have to do to get it done. And we got it done.
That's phenomenal. Was that asphalt plant supplying just your company, or would you have other companies buying it from you also?
Yeah, it would do. Basically, it was for my own company, because the mixes back then, they just turned over to drum plants, and drum plant process is a lower temperature, a kind of gummy, sticky. It's hard to lay, make it look beautiful. So that kind of pissed me, off, because I wanted a good material. So I bought my own plant and started making it. But along that, then I would start selling to my customers, outside sales,
That's crazy. 11 tractor trailer loads coming from Florida, and then 3 years process. I mean, that's a journey. I mean, I think, guys, we have short attention spans, right? Like, we have to fight something for 30 days and it's a struggle. I couldn't imagine fighting a county, a municipality for 3 years.
Yeah, that it was. And, I thought, I told the guy in Lakeland, Florida, I'll be back in 6 months. That was like, it was 3 years, almost 3 years. He was understanding. He had plenty of land. But yeah, so we did it. And with my company at that time, I had concrete guys working with me, and we did our own form work. We did, we installed the plant, rented a crane, and got an electrician, and we installed it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you ever look back through the, like, I guess the 80s and 90s, and like, what sacrifices did you have to make personally for the business to grow the way it did?
I wouldn't call them sacrifice, because I don't want to do anything that I was forced to do. I kind of enjoyed every step of it. But if you look at sacrifice, I guess just working like 7 days a week, and uh, that kind of hurt, because my kids were younger, kind of thing. My father wasn't in this business, so it was like me, myself, and I, and the world. And it was very hard. But I never looked at anything as, I looked at it maybe as a little struggle, but there was always a goal in mind, and I would always achieve that goal.
Yeah. How did you set your goals? And like, did you just like have them in your head? Did you write them down? Did you look at them? Like how did that work for you back then?
Well, back then I did have vision boards. I'd write them like on the sticky notes and stuff like that in my office. And, I would always look at it and, I would dream about it. I would always research as much as I could, that kind of thing. And then when the internet started coming along, that really helped me too. Like I think in 95 or something like that, it just started, like you could buy equipment online and stuff like that. And I knew it was going to be the future. I was so happy to tell my Yellow Page man that his days were numbered. He'd come in each year real cocky, It was I hated that part because they had a monopoly going on. Yellow Pages was the only way you could advertise. Really.
Yeah, how big of a spot did you want in the phone book?
Yeah, well, I did like half page.
Right.
I didn't want to, because they couldn't guarantee placement back then. Now they probably could if they had them, but back then, if you're on the first page and then the other two, you're not guaranteed placement. So I would always stay safe on a half page, and it worked out good. I had my logo created back in the 80s, so I had a logo back then.
Speaking of scaling, I mean, what are some things that arose throughout your journey that kind of caught you off guard, or if somebody's got visions of like doubling or tripling their business, they need to be aware of?
Well, it's going to revert back to human beings, employees. Without good employees, you're nothing. And if, when you branch out, it's, especially now it's hard, but it was always hard trying to pick good employees that were faithful, and I was faithful to them. That's a number one. Without employees, no companies, we're nothing really.
How much of your internal conversation did employees make up as far as like, how do we find better quality? How do we train better? Was that like a large talking point within your organization?
Yeah, they would always, I really had great guys. I mean, they were just like my family, we were like family. I treat them like family. We'd always have picnics. I used to have a backhoe rodeo in the summertime where we would have bands come out, pig roasts, and we'd have backhoes and do all these tricks, with the bowling pin and climbing up hills, and made it. And it was really a marketing effort to gain good operators too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a company picnic. It was a nice time on a weekend, families. We'd have clowns, we'd have bands, and we had a good old time,
Yeah.
So I would do stuff like that. And of course, Christmas, and, I'd let them have off in the summer too. Like that was unheard of. But my main guys, you get off in August, go to the beach, not wintertime. A lot of companies, that meant a lot. I could hand that out now, or anybody could take it. Don't take it with a grain of salt. If you could give, especially in our seasonal business in Delaware, if you can give them off in the summertime, 1 week, that's huge. And it's a big sacrifice, but it means a lot to
them. Over your years, and I'm sure you've interviewed countless people, what are some tips that you would give the younger generation or the next generation coming up on how to conduct interviews, or like what to look for? What traits did you look for in guys? Was there any trick questions you would ask in the process?
I wouldn't ask trick questions. I'll tell you one of my secrets. I had a nice 5-acre site. So when an equipment operator would come in for an interview, I'd interview him for, 10, 15 minutes. Then I'd say, you mind coming out back? And I'd get a spray can paint, and I'd mark out a 30 by 10 in the stone base. I says, dig that out 6 inches, and when you're done, knock on my door. That was it, right? That was it. They come back. It could be 12 inches deep, or it could be 6 inches deep. That was on the line interviewing right there. And you'd be surprised, especially in a backhoe. Skid steers are a little bit easier because you could just see down there, but a backhoe from far away for them to dig 6 inches, which that would be our base 6 or 8 inches. So that I would give them that test, every one.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What were some other major struggles you had when you were growing your business that maybe you didn't think would be there when you were younger?
Well, I think because I gave medical benefits to my employees, and there were different tiers and different levels. And far as like the medical benefits, that was always hard. Um, that, and just overall, obviously the CDL, like a CDL is like really the link in the chain in most companies. They really hold it now, CDL A's and B's. Without them, you're not going anywhere, so that we would always back then, always keep extra CDLs around. A lot of them say, I don't want to drive truck, but they would. I'd say, look, I'll hire you, but if someone calls in sick, I'd always have a backup, always, somehow, some way. Yeah. So you'd always have to have a backup with that when it comes to
I hear from a lot of guys today that like the CDL is a huge sticking point for them because their fear of investing that much money into an employee for them to walk away after they get the CDL. Because I think a CDL today, I mean, depending on the state and the region you live in, can be worth like $3,000 to $8,000, I think, for certification and testing.
I'm not privy to that, but I hear that as well. With all the new laws, and I see different things on Facebook and discussions. Yeah, it is a lot, and it takes a long time to get it. Yeah, there's no more. You see these things. Oh, well, I'll get it for you in 5 days. No, that's gone now. I mean, they rightfully so. Look, we all need to make income, but there's a lot of dangerous people, behind that wheel. I mean, that's 80,000 pounds. It's, that's a lot. And, we all, and especially carrying hot mix, I mean, stone's one thing, but 300 degrees mix. Yeah, that's pretty tough.
Right.
Yeah.
What were some of your favorite moments over growing that business up to 75 employees?
Well, because we were the number one go-to company, and it was nice for them to not nickel and dime you for it comes to price. They knew that we would deliver, we would show up safely, and we would give good quality work, which that's what they want. And then after a while, it wasn't. Yeah, everybody wants to save money, but they need value for the money. So then, because I had my own asphalt plant, we made our own asphalt. So that gave us a tier up from everything, from our competition. So we could come like 1:00 in the morning and start and finish at 7 in the morning, and we have full control over it. And I know nowadays, I have a few friends in the business, they really have a hard time, getting that kind of service from different asphalt plants. So that was another reason why, I put my own plant up to be independent and not have to worry about, a company if they're going to allow me to buy material off them. So at that time,
one of the questions that keeps coming to my mind, and I think I'm just going to ask it now instead of trying to find the right place to ask you, but I know a lot of guys out there, they'll hire 1, 2 guys, maybe 4 or 5, up to 10, and they really struggle on like training and consistency and standards. And here you are with, 75 employees. Did you build a lot of those consistency and standards in the company? Were they just taught on the job? Did you have somebody in the office that helped you build out your employee programs? Or like, how did you maintain your standards with that many different personalities?
Well, each crew that we had they were with me a while, and they were the type of crew that when someone came on their crew, they had to be good workers and they had one to learn. So they're more or less my crews wanted to teach new people coming in. So that's how we grew the company. They would show up after the solid interview and making sure that they meet all the criteria. Then they would go on each crew, and then each crew member on each crew or leader of the crew would teach them on site if they weren't
Yeah.
experienced. But most of the time, we would, try to get someone experienced. Obviously, especially when it comes to rolling or running the paving.
How many
machines.
employees did you have out in the field, and how many did you have at the plant?
In the field, we would have about 40 to 50. And at the plant, we would have 4. But it would be scattered between, because we would operate, the highest was 75, the lowest was 50 employees. So just depending upon which crews and where we were working at. So yeah, so that it would all fluctuate.
Yep, got it.
Yeah,
got it. So you mentioned how like the internet came in, and you said that was like, end of days for yellow pages and things were going to change that way. How did you embrace that new technology, i.e. the internet, in the mid 90s? And did you use it? How did you use it to your advantage?
Well, good question. I found out that what SEO meant, and my wife was a recruiter, and I asked my wife to look up what an SEO was. So she had a portfolio, or actually she had a lot of files where she could find someone. So we found an SEO person that worked for a large company, and they worked for us part-time, and they got us SEO. And this was so funny. Back when the internet first started, now Google, now it's like really hard. But back then, they could type the word paving in Google, and I could be in Bahamas, and my Richards Paving would come up on the first page when it first started. It was really, that was like, I got like 5 good years out of that.
I bet.
And SEO was really important. But, obviously now it's really hard now to get on the first page of Google, with SEO.
So the reason I really am curious about that isn't so much for the internet, but it's like you're talking about a new way of doing things, right? Like I remember 1995 when that thing started coming out. I remember like 1997. I'm like, what the hell's Google? Because like I'd never seen it before, right? I'm like, well, kid in college, he's like, yeah, I found this browser, just a white page. But I feel like we're going through that same, we're probably on the tail end of it now, but like I think there's a lot of business out there that need to start leaning into the AI, whether it's assisting with their business or being AI recommended online and stuff. And it's probably an area where they feel uncomfortable because it's an unknown. And I think you leaning into the internet is a very similar path because it was an unknown in 1995.
I will tell anybody out there listening, if they don't get on Chat GPT, you're missing out. And I'm saying not only for business or marketing, I'm saying for your own personal, anything, real estate transactions, put it in there. Like the attorneys are going to start losing money. I mean, doctors, it's really incredible. It really is. And yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, and Google's going to go bye-bye, in my belief.
Maybe, but it will take a while. I don't think it's going to be a quick fall. I mean, don't forget they own YouTube too, which is the second largest internet search engine in the world, which nobody thinks of them as a search engine, but by definition they are.
No, I know. But like I said, and it's kind of scary if you think about it, how it reacts and how it answers. And it's not right all the time. You really have to watch it. You can't put everything into it and believe it. You really have to be wary, like anything, any information that you get. But it's 85, 90%.
Yeah. I tell business owners all the time, like, trust but verify, number one, like you're talking about. But 2, the worst thing we can do as business owners, because time management is so important. Like there's always 60 hours worth of work to do in a 24-hour period, right? And you got to pick and choose what you can do. to me, using AI, and I don't care if you use ChatGPT or one of the other ones, it gets you away from what I call the white screen syndrome, which is when you open up an email, you open up a document, you open up something, there's nothing there, and you're like, all right, where the hell do I begin?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You know, you can just break that first hour of trying to get into the mode to write something out of your way. You got an outline, you got some ideas, you can rearrange it, but now you've got something to work from versus nothing in front of your face.
Yes, 100%. I agree.
Yeah, and the guys that have gotten, I mean, the smaller guys probably more so than the large guys, because the large guys, to me, like, you're already so ingrained in your softwares and your processes. But those smaller guys that were able to encompass taking their project notes and some other things and using ChatGPT to help them write a professional estimate. I read a story about this guy in the UK, dropped out of school in the 7th grade, almost 100% illiterate. Like, his typing skills were abysmal. And this guy set him up with ChatGPT and hooked it up to his email and did this was 2 years ago. And next thing you know, he's sending professional estimates and closing jobs at a rate he'd never seen before, because he just didn't have the communication ability written to be able to do that.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's absolutely wonderful. And it's just started. Can you imagine? And I was fooling around with an estimate. Someone sent me a PDF, and I dumped it in there, and I said, please, give me the amounts needed, and like within 2 minutes, complete processes. How much concrete, how much asphalt, how many linear feet of piping, and so. And that was just ChatGPT. That wasn't a specialty chat or AI for estimating, So it's
getting
wonderful.
better and better by the day too. And I like doing it like what you just talked about, because sometimes it'll spit out a line item that I'm like, oh shit, I kind of forgot I needed to include that. But I still go back and double check the dimensions, the depths, the pricing. Like, I don't take it for face value, but boy, what a great outline to copy and paste into a spreadsheet or an estimate and then just tweak it. Now you spent 30 minutes instead of 3 hours.
Exactly. And sometimes, like, when you want to answer a letter, let's say it's from someone, and you could give your thoughts in it professionally, without, sometimes I'd have to go to my CPA to get some guidance, but, you just go in there and it just, writes it all out for you,
Yeah, and you read it and you can say, yes, that's what I was thinking, or I wanted, or not, right? And tweak it.
And it saves time and anguish. Sometimes you think and you have a lot of pressure on you, and it really, really helps you out. It helps me out, whenever I need to answer like a long email or something like that. Like today, I just got my insurance for the year. It's up tomorrow. And right before we got on, I dumped it in ChatGPT, and they outlined everything. Instead of 20 pages, on one page, it gave me an outline. That's like wonderful. I started reading it before we got on the air. I'm like, okay, let's do tomorrow. So, but it's
just about an hour of your time back. Yeah,
more than that.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So you get into the 2000s. Business obviously is humming. You're staying steady with the staff, the plant, the whole 9 yards. Did you look for an exit strategy, or did they come look for you? You looked.
I looked. You have to plant the seed out there. Anybody out there listening, and exit, like, as I said earlier, you have to know when to hold them and fold them, like the song goes. I definitely put it out there. I forget the name of the businessforsale.com or whatever it is, one of them. And I put it out there, paving company with asphalt plant, blah, blah, blah. Boom, put it out there. And one day, someone in like 2015 contacted me, and I got a lot of calls from it, but this was a pretty qualified lead. And I had a conversation with them and with my CPA, and I made it work. It took 2 years to get to the bottom line and make the settlement. But yeah, I did it. I was so happy because it was time for me, Back then I was 63. I'm 70 right now. So, but it was nice. It was really nice and the intentions were great. I mean, the company, they promoted everyone and things like that. But like I said, when the pandemic came, it kind of like things kind of bottomed out, so they kind of stopped doing it. But no, I recommend it to anybody that wants exit strategy. They have to put it out there. It's like fishing. You have to put the bait out
Yeah.
there. But you have to have a good EBITDA and good. You have to do everything right. In your company too, because if private equity does purchase or look to purchase a company, you have to make sure everything is
So
good
I'd love to get your
in that
thoughts
realm.
on my comment that I always tell guys when I talk to them. But I'm like, the best thing you can do for your business is day one is to build it as if you're planning on selling it. Because even if you keep it,
Yeah,
everything's where it needs to be.
yeah. So when you're 20s and 30s and 40s, you're not thinking 60 seems like miles away. But guess what? Mr. Bucci, the old guy that used to work for me, he'd always say to me, he was 55, I was 30. He came in, he goes, Richard, life's like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it rolls. Right. And that's so true. When you're 50 and you get your AARP card, boom, that's your first, like, oh my God, I'm 50, right? There's 60, boom, like that. And then here I am 70, right? So you find out health is a wealth. And, that's why I still like running skid steer and exercise. I lost 85 pounds, gained a few pounds over the holidays, but I'm about ready to lose it. But yeah, so then I exercise. I love running equipment. And like I have a couple skid steers and I put millings down. I just try to stay a little busy. I don't do it every day, but it's fun getting back out there, meeting customers. And, it's like my golf game, actually. Yeah, I'm a workaholic. What can I say? Yeah. Yeah, good question. I offered it to my son back like in 2013. And because back in 13, I was getting kind of tired, but he already started his company. He was really doing well and he really didn't want to do it. But when you sign up with private equity, there was non-disclosure document that you have to sign. You cannot tell anyone. So at that time, my wife and I had to sign it, and I couldn't disclose it to anyone. So it took like almost like a year and a half to 2 years. Yeah, so that's how that happened. Hmm. I did. They were leasing my land. Both they were leasing the asphalt plant and they were also leasing my headquarters. So they kind of like gave that back. Since then, I leased it out to Herc Rental. So they signed like a 20-year lease. I'm good there. And the asphalt plant. So this is funny. So when I took the plant back, it was nothing. It was 4 acre site, but it was 50 foot high of broken asphalt all the way around the perimeter. So I'm like, and concrete. So, when you get handed lemons, you make lemonade, right? So I started crushing. So I just started crushing and crushing each year and selling it, crushing and selling it. And I got the domain name millings.com. So I had that, right? So I like to franchise that actually. It's like a virtual estimate where you go at, like, I have a software program where you can figure out square footage, and you tell people. Now, I was doing virtual estimates in 2014 before virtual estimates or virtual was a reality, right? On my Facebook. And I would not go out. I would say, look, if you truly want me to come out, we'll come out and look at it, just double check. But 9 out of 10, when I do the millions, I just show up. Don't get a deposit and figure it out. 1, 2, 3 loads of melons. It's pretty easy. It's not like hot mix where if you have 100 square feet, oh my God, it's going to cost you $80 a ton. Melons are pretty reasonable. So, and then when I do melons myself, it's fun just traveling around like the South Jersey, Maryland, Pennsylvania, like Philly. I get to do a little traveling. I just have fun meeting people. I love people, meeting new people. And sometimes I'm on a farm lane in South Jersey, or I'm downtown Philadelphia you know, in the hood, working. But it's fun just doing it, wherever I go. And I love running equipment. I have a Cat 249. I just bought a new. When I called you, I bought a used new like power rake with a 2-in-1 bucket. I think I was CTI or CIT, one of them. Really nice. So I used it on a job last week. And that's going to let me recycle people's stone base. And it really does a nice job, like revitalizing and bringing it up to the top. And then I'll roll it in. Yeah. So that's something like a little fun, you know? I did like 2 days at the most. Like I have an RV. My wife and I were like traveling, So I when I get paving work, my son comes down. He's in New Jersey, and he runs the jobs, and he has all the equipment, all the manpower, and we get it done. But just keep him busy and just having fun, making fun work out of it, and making a few bucks, never hurts, you know. Yes, that's the pleasure. It's just so fun. My grandson's 28 years old, and he's really good worker, and he's smart. He does a lot of the marketing in his dad's company, but it's nice showing him like little things like looting asphalt, how to blend it in a little bit better. Like I was taught by old timers, So I'm trying to pass that tradition on. Not that it's magical or scientific, but there's certain little tricks of the trade, certain tools, And just he asked me just last week. He asked me to make up an ad for him for wintertime slow. Everybody advertise in the wintertime selling air conditioners in the wintertime, right? But no, it's yeah. So it's just fun, to be needed and still involved. I think that's important. You know, you Not really. I was always a boater. I bought a motor home. In fact, I just bought a new motor home. It just came in. So looking forward to taking some trips with that. Love RVing. It's fun because we have a couple dogs and we go out and just go have fun. I have my electric bike, keeps the weight down. I ride everywhere. I'm like Forrest Gump on a bike. I go into a town. I'm all over the place. I get to know it like the back of my hand. It's fun. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, anybody could take an Uber or their car, but there's nothing like the back roads, of any place, especially like the resort towns. We love Cape May, New Jersey. and all the Jersey Shore, all the way up like Sea Isle City, LBI, and there's a lot of like little campgrounds like real close to the shore, and I'll take it right across to the islands, and like I love it. I have my Fitbit on. I'm always like burning calories so I could eat more at night. Try to even it out. It's like a bank account. With your calories in, calories out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you learn that. It's all good. Look, health is a wealth no matter what age, but like when you get up my age, you know, I see some of my friends, and a lot of them aren't doing too well, but you want to keep busy, you want to lift weights. Like I have a 20-pound dumbbell right next to me. I'll just sit here and just while I'm watching TV, just to I don't even know I'm doing it sometimes, Like you just get in that habit, keep your muscles, keep fit, keep your mind strong, and feed your body well. Okay. So when I sold the company, I was, not really in a good place. I had my hip replaced. I would maybe drink a little bit too much on the weekend and eat a lot of food. I was 340 some pounds, right? I'm like, no, this isn't going to work. So as soon as I sold the company, my mission was, well, I really don't have to drink anymore because I don't have any problems anymore, kind of thing. And I don't, and when you would have a few beers, I would eat a whole pizza, that kind of thing, and not exercise. Well, I changed all that. In 8 months, I lost 85 pounds. And this is like without, the Ozempic, it just like truly not eating junk or drinking beer or alcohol. Right. And that was it. And now I feel good. I'm, you know, I'm always watching my weight. I have a Fitbit. I always laugh at people. I had a Rolex. I have a Rolex watch, but I tell people I traded in my Rolex for a Fitbit. you know? So, yeah. So it's important. It really is because it's life just happens so fast. Like Mr. Bucci said, life's like a roll of toilet paper. You close you get to the end, the faster it rolls.
I wear a Garmin watch, and there's a lot of days I want to go back to just a traditional nice watch because it doesn't get notifications, and like, I don't know if your Fitbit does.
Right.
Like, I just turned off a lot of that stuff, disconnected from my phone, but I just love being able to see how I slept last night, what my heart rate is. And so there's a lot of days where I'm like, I don't want to give up my Garmin.
No, because sleep is so important. Now, a lot of us don't need a lot of sleep. Like I wind up doing like 6.5 hours at the max, and they're saying 8 hours you should get. I can't sleep 8 hours, and it's just like Donald Trump. What's he sleep like 4 hours, five. Like he's 80 years old, so or anybody, like I said, it's important. Like you get your heart beat up, you maintain, 110 beats per minute minimum and stay in that zone. And just, I feel so good. It's like an adrenaline rush, right? I just feel so good when I ride that bike. Now, like I said, I do have electric bike, but I'm always and forever pedaling. So I'm up at 8% grade. I'm not walking it up there. I'm pedaling. I'm sweating profusely.
Yeah.
But from my house here, I'm going to this little town called Newcastle, which is pretty far, and it's like a 25-mile round trip. And when I tell people I go to the city of Newcastle from Wilmington, they go, "Oh my God!" But yeah, it's a beautiful. Delaware has beautiful bike trails, and it's really nice going out. I'm really addicted to bike riding. I just hate the cold weather because I'm stuck in my garage and I have a sit down bike in my garage.
Yeah.
But yeah. I look forward to going
I've got
out
the trainer that I hook up my actual bike to in the house and ride it on that. We have the Peloton if you want to ride that. I just don't enjoy it.
Pelotons
I love going on bike rides. Most years I probably ride a couple thousand miles.
Wow.
We actually do it.
Man,
You'll
that's
laugh at this,
awesome.
Richard. We actually do an event. I've done it like 5 times. It's called Ragbri, and it's Register's annual Great Bicycle Ride Across Iowa is what it stands for. And it was the Des Moines, Iowa newspaper, the Register. So we start at the Missouri River and you dip your back tire in it. And a week later, you dip your front tire in the Mississippi River and you've ridden across the entire state of Iowa. It's about 500 miles.
Wow.
And I tell people about that. And 9 times out of 10, they all ask me the same question when I tell them I ride my bike across Iowa. And it takes me a week. They go, why does it take you a whole week to ride your motorcycle across Iowa? Because the idea of riding a bicycle across Iowa doesn't even cross their mind.
Wow. Man, that's awesome. What month is that?
Here's the best part. It started out as a bet between 2 journalists. So it's always the last full week in July. So it's hotter than bejesus. You're camping out at night. It's just, some years you get really great weather where it's in the 80s or low 90s, not too high humidity. And it's just a great week. But there was one year, I think there was a day we had an 83-mile ride that day, and it was like 103 miles an hour, 103 heat index, and then the asphalt felt like 110.
Oh my God.
There was numerous times that day I'm like, I'm either going to pass out or puke because I don't feel good.
Yeah, oh yeah, that'd be plenty of water, that's for sure.
But I just love it. There's something freeing about riding a bicycle, and I always tell the adults, I'm like, get back on a bike because it'll remind you of the first time you learned how to ride a bicycle as a kid. And you knew, like, that's the first chance most of us have at freedom, right? Like, mom and dad can't, I'm gone. I'm by myself. I'm solo.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's just something beautiful about it.
Well, you mentioned that. My flashback is I got a hand-me-down bike from my cousin because, we didn't have a lot. And I took it to this, it was called Hoy's 5 and 10 cent store, and someone stole it. So yeah, it's just like a flashback. But but bicycle riding is great.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you a question. How did you get started? Skid Steer Nation.
I'll give you the medium length answer if you're okay with that. Yes. So I went to college and I got a job at a bar and I absolutely fell in love with it. And by 25, I owned my first nightclub. We were open from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. By 28, we had 2 nightclubs and a restaurant, 110 employees, full and part-time. By 30, I had back to 1 because like bad partnership, the economy, and I learned a lot of lessons because you think you're bulletproof in your 20s, right? Mm-hmm. Ran that up through 2011, and it was just time to exit the industry. It was taking its toll on me and everything else. And I was sitting at home, and I had no idea what I was going to do next. And my wife at the time had a friend who was a part owner investor in this manufacturing company. And they gave me a job doing sales for $12 an hour and 5% commission. And I knew nothing about manufacturing, steel grades, none of it. Mm-hmm. And it was actually Do More Equipment who manufactures the 4-blade grader attachments. So I worked in sales for 12 to 16 months, 14 months, I think it was. And they eventually fired the entire management team, gave me the keys to the building, told me to run the business as if it was mine, and they'd meet me once a month. Because I had rebranded the whole company. I had done internal auditing, price checks, cost analysis, all the stuff that the GM should have been doing that wasn't. And I was just a salesman, So I built a new website. I did all this stuff for the company. So I ended up running that company for the next 8 or 9 years. And it was like a perfect fit for me because it had all the benefits of being the owner, right? Like I met with an owner. I met with them 1 hour a month. But I didn't have the stress of the pay. Like I did, but it wasn't my money, right?
Sure.
It's a different stress level. And they ended up selling the company and the property and all that. And I just realized it was probably in my best interest not to work for the new owners, not because I didn't like them, but management style. I just wasn't up for the change personally. Sure. And then shortly after that, COVID hit. And during COVID, I was like, man, I've had the idea of starting the store and I just saw the market trend that like the family businesses made great attachments, but they all had a basic website. They didn't have a sales team. They were more focused on engineering and quality and manufacturing than they were sales. And back then I was like, boy, we could build an online store and become a dealer for a lot of these small family manufacturers and only represent their products.
Wow.
And now you're seeing them pop up. You know, they're doing their own online sales. They're getting more aggressive in marketing. You're seeing more dealers. But, you know, 5-6 years ago, people weren't doing that. So that's kind of how Skid Steer Nation began. I just had knowledge in that industry. I'd met a lot of those families. I just started calling some companies I knew, and I was like, this is my idea. This is what I want to do. I just want an opportunity to sell your equipment.
Wow, that's awesome. And, that's really good. And do you have, how many employees do you have?
So between Skid Steer Nation and Throttled Up Marketing, we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. 9.
Okay. That's manageable.
It's very manageable. You know, we're probably going to see some growth where we need, I think we're adding 2 more in the next month, actually, just because we're getting so busy with a couple areas.
Awesome.
But, you know, we're not manufacturing and fabricating. I'm not shipping. I'm not built like, so it's the workload per employee when it's more computer phone based, much larger than, you know, having a manual. Like, so we're blessed in that area.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's been a fun ride, but there's a lot of days that I wonder if I shouldn't put it out there like you did and just see if put some baits in the water and see what happens. But
yeah, I would say there's, you know, nothing venture, nothing gain. You know, you don't get if you don't.
And you
ask.
don't have to say yes.
No one's that's it. You know, and nowadays you don't know what's out there, right? You know, the question people would ask me this day, if you knew what you knew now, would you have done the same thing? And I'd say yes, because not too many people are knocking down paving companies and paying good money for a paving company. I'm not discounting that, but I'd always say, oh, well, you know, Ritchie Brothers Auctioneer, right? I said, well, you can always go to Ritchie Brother Auctioneer and do it that way. But no, I don't have regrets. Hey, the book of life, the chapters, we have no control over. What's going to happen. You just can't dwell on those chapters. You can reference back to it and glance at it and then flip it over and look at the new chapter. What's ahead of you for tomorrow, right? Because what's in the past is in the past, but it's all good. You know, at the end of the day.
I'd love to get your perspective on this just because of your wisdom and your years in the industry and all that. But I always think that I have a hard time remembering the really good days of the past. Like, boy, I don't know, like, what's my favorite day at work? I couldn't tell you. But I can tell you the really bad days.
Sure.
Right. And I think a lot of business owners, they dwell on those bad days. I know I did it at one point in my life. And I finally had to just like break the cycle. And then they start becoming and feeling like they're only the value of the quality of those crappy days versus remembering the good days. Like, what advice would you give this younger generation to be like, a bad day is a learning lessons. It's the school of hard knocks. Be grateful for it.
Yeah. Good question. And I'll tell you what I would just say, and I use this all the time. When you're riding your car, right, you have the rear view mirror, right? But you just glance at that. But you always look forward, right? I would say that when you run a company, let those bad moments just be a glance in the mirror. Don't dwell on it, because you're going to crash.
That's a great analogy. In fact, I think you told me that on the phone last month, and I forgot it. And I loved that when you told me originally of like, it's just a rear view mirror. And, like, you don't focus all your attention on the rear view mirror when you're driving, and you can't focus on it when you're running a business either.
100%. That's word of advice right there to everyone. Everyone goes through bad times, man. I mean, without the bad times, you wouldn't know the good times. But you have to learn to remember the good times. And whether you get a vision board or write it on a sticky paper and stick it up there, but you should remember the good times, because that keeps you going.
Yeah, and I'm sure you would attest to this. Even at 70, it's why you still want to get out and work a couple times here and there, right? But I mean, constant growth is what we're designed and built to do as human beings. Constant evolution, a little bit of struggle, a little bit of stress. And that's why I think the people that retire, that literally do nothing, have a shorter lifespan than those that keep doing and moving forward and find some sort of a purpose.
You have to have a purpose in life, that's for sure. And, you know, it's just, you have to keep your mind busy, your body busy, and keep it moving. You got to keep the flow, just like how your blood flows and oxygen, your mind and your thinking. Like, I like running ads on Facebook just because, like, it's fun, the creativity. Like some of these ads I run, like I had someone honestly contact me all over a Millens job. They want like a roadway done over in Jersey. Like it's a qualified lead, right? So it's just fun. It's like you never know what you get the next day, you know, and it answers either through an email or a text or whatever. You know, you have to always put things out there. And just like to your point, to sell your company one day to someone, you got to put it out there.
Yeah.
My mom taught me you don't get if you don't ask.
Very true.
Good old Italian woman. That's what she would say all the time.
I want to add a little asterisk note to that comment you just talked about, like where you said you have to have a purpose. Cause like it's a message that most of us hear, right? Like, I don't care. You turn on YouTube or some podcast. Someone's like, oh, find your purpose, find your purpose. And I personally just went through this struggle. Cause like I've probably spent a year being like, what is my purpose? Like, what is the purpose I'm meant to fulfill? And just recently I listened to, not going to think about who it was, but his explanation of this was so point on. It was like an aha moment for me. And he's just like, all of us keep thinking we need to find some grand purpose for our entire life. He's like, no different than your interests, your hobbies, and your love. Your purpose will change with the season in your life. Like, stop trying to find one purpose to live until you die and just find the purpose that has meaning today.
Sure. No, that's 100% there. No, that's 100%. Because, you know, you'd be all over the place trying to find different purposes. You know, you have to fulfill a purpose that you love to do, that you want to get up in the morning and you want to feel good. You know, you don't want to, when your job gets to a point where, you know, that you don't want to get up or you drink too much or you smoke too much, whatever that deal is, you need to change it. We have the power to change it. You know, we're not stuck, you know, no matter what you do, you know, we have freedom of choice. So, yeah.
So I love that conversation about purpose. I got just a couple more questions I'd love to just get your thoughts and insights on. I feel like today these business owners have, you know, obviously every generation will say the next generation has some advantages that they didn't have in the past. But you're looking at a world today, Richard, where the efficiencies that you can gain by implementing like machine control or GPS or CRM softwares or automation services, and then you couple that with the work ethic and the hard work and the knowledge of doing the jobs. Like, what do you think's possible for these business owners today that maybe it wasn't possible, or it was like a different type of possible back when your heyday in the 80s and 90s?
Well, they can obviously, and a lot of them are doing already, do large scale paving companies across the United States and around the world, actually, because the world's at your fingertips now, you know. So if someone had that dream, it could be gotten, you know, if you want it. Now, me personally, I don't have dreams that big. You know, I'm happy with what I have, but I see a lot of friends and companies that are starting out with like nationwide, like paving, maintenance and stuff like that. And yeah, it's definitely can be done. It's easier. You know, it's at your fingertips, everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's just a different world. I mean, I remember, God, I can't tell you the last time I owned a calculator, and I can't tell you the last time I owned a calculator that had print paper built into it. But if you would have told me in 2003 that there'd be a day in my life that there wasn't one sitting with print paper on my desk, I would have laughed at you.
I know. You know, just like when I used to get the newspaper, you know, every morning going out there in my robe like Tony Soprano, right? Picking this up and bringing it in. And it's like forget it. I got rid of it. It's yeah. I mean, change comes and you have to embrace it and move on from there. Just like back when they had the telephone and they had to call the operator to connect calls and who would have thought when I watched the Jetsons when I was a kid, the Jetsons, who would have thought the watching, I mean that was the future. We were watching the future when I was like 5 years old.
I feel like the only thing we're missing from the Jetsons is the actual flying car.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
it's
that's
coming, right? But
that's coming.
But like Elon Musk has the Optimus robots. I mean, that's basically the maid they had in there. Like it's everything but the flying cars basically come around.
No, look, there's someone in Lower Delaware that has a drone, a sit-down drone, and it only flies for like 30 minutes, but it's huge. And the guy in Delaware, I see him all over Facebook, they're flying here and there. 10 years from now, God knows what kind of power they're going to come up with, like these lithium batteries and whatever they're coming up with, how the lithium batteries, like I bought this snowblower with a couple battery packs and it did a pretty good job. I have that it's called an Ego blower, and those batteries are pretty, and that's just the start. So yeah, 10 years from now, yeah, that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You're going to have cars, autonomous cars going around there, having it now. They just got to, it's going to happen.
Well, it's funny, like talking about autonomous cars, I've been working really closely with Benchmark Tool and Supply in North Carolina, and we've been kind of putting together a marketing strategy to really launch this machine controlled GPS system that they have rights to with CHC Nav. The price point's really great. The service is phenomenal. But like one of the things I learned separate from machine control was that Chuck actually partnered with a company that does RTK corrections nationwide. And like I feel like that was one of the limiting factors with the machine control was that the limited GPS capability. That's why I always had to have a base unit somewhere nearby. Well,
right.
I didn't even think about this, but the company that they're partnering with has actually built RTK corrections for like all the Amazon delivery trucks, and they're building them for autonomous vehicles. And I'm like, oh, that's why we haven't seen it yet, is because they're still finalizing the infrastructure, and it's not a matter of if it comes, it's when it gets here.
When. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing each day, every new invention with Elon Musk and, the whole world, Amazon, and the way everything's going. It's incredible. I mean, a lot of places are going out of business. Like a lot of these shopping malls, they're dropping around town here. They have this place called Concord Mall. It's like a ghost town. It's in prime real estate.
Listen,
too.
I got the perfect idea for those old shopping malls. All you got to do is convert them into condo, townhouse, apartment complexes, and then you have a built-in convenience store, built-in gym, built-in hair salon. Because I feel like this, we're such a community of convenience today that if you literally had never had to walk outside, you could work from home, walk down the mall, get your hair cut, grab your groceries, head back to your apartment. I think they'd be very successful.
Oh yeah, no, that would be. In fact, that's a lot of the development now in commercial real estate is where the commercials on the bottom, the apartments on
going
the
back
top.
to the 1930s, man.
So, oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's
amazing.
crazy. That's crazy. With all of your years of experience, all your trials, tribulations, successes, and monuments, if you were talking to your 21-year-old self again, what would be some nuggets of advice that you wish he knew then that this younger generation today could also benefit from?
Well, that's kind of hard to answer because I don't know how to answer that really, because everything that we talked about I kind of revealed. So I would just say that you show up for work, be a person of your word. Don't ever lie to your employees or anyone. pay them above average wage, and sacrifice and give back to them, because without the employees, you're nothing. Like, I could have never sold my company if I didn't have great employees. Like, you're not going to do it with 3 or 4 people. You need that EBITDA, and you need structure, you know? So I would say that, you show up on time, be a person of your word, buy the best equipment available, do a great job marketing, and roll with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have as much wisdom as you do, but I've been around a couple blocks. And I think the best advice, and I would tell my old self, would be stay in your lane. New ideas can be distractions. Fix one problem at a time. I feel like every time I try to fix multiple things in my business at once, they all break. And yeah, and like, just to resonate with you, right? Like, communication. It solves 99% of all problems.
Oh yeah. No, 100%. That's communication's the key. People, no one can read your mind, and there's a lot of pressure when you own a company, worrying about payroll, paying bills. You always have that problem. We'd always have worry about wintertime, right? You make hay while the sun shines, but then wintertime it drains you. So yeah, it's important to, have stay in your lane. You can get distracted, but you don't get if you don't ask. If you see opportunities, you should look at it, but stay in your lane. You can't, like, give up everything you have for another venture, kind of thing.
Yeah. Because I would have divided attention in my younger days, where I'd have an idea for something and it had absolutely nothing to do with my existing business or my existing clientele. Like, you got to start,
Right,
you're
right.
starting from all over, and then you're trying to grow this and maintain this or still grow. And like, next thing you know, they're both crumbling.
No, it's true. And like the entrepreneur in you, the entrepreneur in me, I'm always looking at something to make a business out of. Like, restaurant, I had a restaurant. I had a junk removal company. I've had a lot of failures, but it's only a failure if you don't try, right? So I learned my lesson when I had my restaurant in 1988. I started a restaurant, and it was a winter time, like ADD, like, what am I going to do, right? So I said, well, let me put a restaurant on this corner. Okay, well, let me buy this 1928 street car, and put it in Wilmington, go through the hoops, go through the city of Wilmington, build a station, which became a deck on top, get my liquor license. Like, what did I learn out of that deal? I learned that I needed to buy an asphalt plant. And that's when yeah, so it was like all that money wasted. And then people say, oh, well, it's a write-off. Well, it is a write-off, business loss. But you got to have money to have a write-off. But yeah, so I did the restaurant before, kind of like in your not probably like your industry, but kind of, it was a bar and some happy hours. But yeah, I mean, entrepreneur, you should always look at different things, but your bread and butter is your bread and butter. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
I've got a folder.
Stick to what you know.
I've got a folder in my Google Drive it's very random, and it's got every idea or anything possible that I get, and I just throw it in there. And
yeah,
like, it's fun to go back and look at where my mind goes throughout the years, and like what.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like, who knows, maybe one of those is $1 billion idea in there, but it's just right now it doesn't fit where I need it to go. But I learned a long time ago that me stifling my creativity and my desire to have those thoughts and like wonders was a success for like personal self-depression. So I still allow myself to have that creativity, right? The thoughts and the what ifs and like a little bit of hashing it out. I just learned not to act on that creativity.
It's fine. You have to keep that alive though, because you don't want to suppress it, because it's a part of you that makes you who you are, you know, like I'm always thinking of new. Oh, this would be great. Then the last word in my mind is, well, you need good employees for that. It's kind of
Yeah.
like okay, it was a good
It was a
idea,
great
but
idea,
yeah,
but I'm not the one to fulfill it.
right, right, right. No, you have to keep the juices alive, and I would say, just when we were all younger, I get off track like I did that restaurant that time, and it's a good lesson learned, good memories, and all
Yeah.
that. But stick to your bread and
Yeah.
butter.
So I put up one guardrail when we started Skid Steer Nation, and it's the one guardrail I will not break. But because I know I'm going to have ideas, right? It's the whole reason we have the marketing company. It's the whole reason I've done consulting is because,
Sure.
oh, I could do this and we could help there and all that. So, but the one guardrail that I put
Right.
up is that any idea that I even think about moving forward with has to serve the same audience I already work with.
Yeah. You could intertwine things with the same audience.
But I mean,
'Cause you already
developing a new
build
audience
upon
is
that.
so hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know,
How many episodes have you put out with Skid Steer Nation?
we were
like
just
this?
talking about this a couple weeks ago. I think we're right around 160 episodes.
Wow. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think we started at the end of 2022, I think.
Yeah. Well, that takes a lot of your time.
So, yeah, and it does take time. The interviews, I tell this all the time, like doing these interviews with guys like yourself, it lights my fire and it actually fills my cup.
Oh, good.
Like customers, you deal with customers all day that want something from you and you feel drained at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
Like
absolutely.
you're just giving. We're doing the interview. I get to give to the audience, but I also get to receive from all of the guests and their stories, their knowledge, their experiences.
You gain the nugget, like you said, the nuggets. And what speaker used that nugget statement? One of them. Was it one of the speakers that I listened to? They used nuggets, like you just said, nuggets,
Yeah.
nuggets of information.
Yeah. And between podcasts, whether it be this one or other podcasts, between YouTube, between ChatGPT, you may not get the exact roadmap that you envision in your head, but you can get all the building blocks to build your road the way you want it.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's just a beautiful time. And I think we're probably overloaded with information. And then we have that paralysis by analysis, right? You've got so much input, you're afraid to make a decision because like you can find 9 different variations to do the same thing.
Right. Yeah, that could be draining.
Yeah.
That causes another stress level there.
Yeah.
Overthinking that. Yeah. You got to figure out the right one.
Yeah. The best thing to do is just learn to make decisions, right, wrong, or indifferent. Because if it's wrong, you can pivot and adjust it.
Yes, exactly.
If you make no decision, you're just going to be sitting on the treadmill.
Sitting on the treadmill, not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Not going anywhere anyway, but at least you're moving along on the treadmill. But yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. No reaction's bad. That causes more stress. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I answer that? I let it go, and your mind starts working on, Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. What a great conversation today, Richard. I can't thank you enough for taking time and being so candid and open with us and like just sitting here chatting with me today. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
No, I'll tell you, make it very comfortable. It was a great interview. You're a great person to give the interview. Really.
Thank you.
You make people feel comfortable. It should be real easy. Like it was really, I felt very comfortable. Like I'm not even talking to an audience or anything, It's just,
that's the goal is make them just think they're talking to me.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very good. I can't wait to start listening to your episodes again. I did listen to it a couple years ago, but then, so you have an app for that?
It's not an app. We have them listed on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So like wherever you can find a podcast, you can find it. And then we also post them on our YouTube channel, on the Skid Steer Nation YouTube channel. It's got a playlist just of all the podcast episodes.
Okay, I'll have to subscribe for that. That'd be good.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I appreciate it. Well,
yeah.
Guys, this is one you're going to want to re-listen to 2 or 3 times. I mean, it's not very often you get what are we talking here? 50-year veteran in the industry that's walked the walk and talked the talk and sold the business and started the business and all of that. So, I mean, my one key takeaway today, if I were to think of one sentence you said, Richard, that will stick with me after this episode, it was be a warrior, not a worrier.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, because we do have to worry, but being the warrior is more powerful. That's for sure.
Yeah, I love that. All right, guys, keep working hard, keep grinding, build that vision board, see that end where you want the business to go, fix one problem at a time. Keep doing what you're doing. We're here to support you, push you along the mission as you go. And until next week, stay good.